Hey guys, tonight we dive into something that might seem bizarre and a little gross at first, but trust me, it's deeply fascinating. We're exploring the weird ancient Egyptian beauty rituals that actually worked. Yes, you heard that right. Forget the glamorous Hollywood images of Cleopatra's cat-eye makeup and golden headdresses for a moment. We're going to peek behind the curtain of daily life along the Nile, all the way into the beauty secrets and routines that rarely make the history textbooks. How did people thousands of years ago keep clean and even smell good in the desert heat? Did Cleopatra really bathe in sour donkey milk to keep her skin youthful? What strange ingredients did Egyptians slather on their skin and hair in the name of beauty? And do those things actually have scientific merit? And what did it really feel like to live in a world where makeup wasn't just for looks, but for health and even magic? Brace yourself for some eye-opening and nose-wrinkling details. This won't be a glamorous tale, but it will be fascinating. Before we jump into the past, take a moment to get comfortable. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a gentle fan or some soft background sound. And if you enjoy these late-night history dives, consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel. It really helps me continue these journeys. Feel free to let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you right now. I love seeing the global community gathered for these stories. Now, take a deep breath and relax. Let's ease into tonight's journey together, back to ancient Egypt, and uncover the untold details of the weird and wonderful beauty rituals of the pharaohs and their people. We find ourselves standing on the banks of the Nile, in the early morning light of an ancient Egyptian dawn. The air is cool and still, and a light mist clings to the Nile's surface like a gauzy shawl. Date palm trees stand silhouetted against the pink horizon, their reflections rippling gently whenever a fish breaks the water's surface. A heron takes flight with a graceful flap of wings, gliding low over the river in search of its breakfast. Off to one side, a fisherman in a simple reed canoe poles along the marshy bank, humming a soft tune as he casts his net. The world is just waking up, and there's a peaceful hush over the landscape. Along the riverbank, people are beginning their day. You can hear splashes and laughter as a few children bathe playfully in the shallows, their mothers keeping a watchful eye. Not far away, a farmer kneels at the water's edge, rinsing the night's dust off his face and arms, while a young woman fills a clay jug to bring home for washing. In ancient Egypt, before any powder or perfume touched the skin, cleanliness came first. The Egyptians believed that purity of the body was the foundation of beauty, and even of holiness. So picture this: men, women, and even children stepping into the cool Nile shallows at daybreak, shivering slightly as the water envelops them, scrubbing their skin gently with handfuls of sand or a smooth stone to rub away yesterday's sweat and grime. The sand acts like a natural exfoliant, and though it's a bit rough, it leaves their skin feeling refreshed. It's a simple morning bath under the open sky, with the river's currents carrying away the dirt. In a land of relentless sun and blowing sand, you had to wash it all off if you wanted to feel comfortable and look your best. A new day in Egypt starts with the scent of river water and wet sand, the sound of trickling drops and satisfied sighs as the heat and dust of yesterday are washed downstream. Now, not everyone bathed directly in the river, of course. In the cities or wealthy estates, some lucky folks had simple bath chambers, perhaps a shallow tub of water or a dedicated space where servants would pour water over them from jars. The water might be scented with a few crushed lotus petals or herbs if you could afford that little luxury. Later in Egyptian history, by the Greco-Roman period, there were even public bathhouses. But in our time of pharaohs, the Nile is the great bath that all can use. Imagine the relief of that cool water at dawn, washing away the stickiness of a hot Egyptian night. You step out feeling renewed, and that's when the real beauty routine begins. One thing you'd notice immediately about ancient Egyptians, they're absolutely meticulous about grooming. Herodotus, a Greek historian who visited Egypt, observed with astonishment that the Egyptians preferred to be clean rather than comely. By that, he meant they often valued cleanliness even above outward style. They shaved their faces, and often their heads, washed their clothes frequently, and the priests went to even greater lengths of hygiene. For instance, in the great temple of Karnak at dawn, the priests begin their day with rigorous cleansing. Picture a priest of Amun standing in the courtyard's first light. He pours a jug of cold water over his shaven head and body, shockingly chilly but spiritually purifying. Every hair that could harbor dirt or lice has been removed from his body. Even his eyebrows are trimmed, all to present absolute cleanliness in service of the gods. He dons only fresh white linen robes and sandals made of papyrus reeds, considered cleaner than leather. He will wash not once but several times. Egyptian priests bathe in cold water twice by day and twice by night. Such is their devotion to hygiene as holiness. To them, any impurity could offend the divine, so they take no chances. As the sun climbs a little higher, the world of ancient Egypt comes alive with daily routines. Let's follow one woman in particular as she goes about her morning ritual. Imagine, for a moment, that you are her, a noble lady of Thebes, living around 3,300 years ago during the golden age of the New Kingdom. The air in your bedchamber is still pleasantly cool. Sunlight is just peeking through the mashrabia screen on the window, casting a patterned glow on the painted walls. You rise from your cot. Your linen sheets were freshly washed by servants and smell faintly of the lemongrass soap they used. After sleeping under only a light linen sheet, for even nights can be warm in Egypt, you feel the slight stickiness of sweat on your skin. It's time to wash. In a corner of your chambers stands a terracotta wash basin on a low stand. A servant girl has already brought in fresh water drawn from the household well, or perhaps delivered from the Nile in sealed jars. You step over to it, and she greets you with a respectful Imhotep, wishing you peace this morning. First things first, you remove your nightdress, a simple white linen shift, and slip on a clean wrap or robe for bathing. Privacy isn't a huge concern in Egyptian households, but modesty is observed among the highborn to an extent, so only your closest handmaid assists you. Now comes the basic cleansing. The servant pours cool water slowly over your shoulders from a decorated clay pitcher. You shiver for a second at the chill, and then sigh as it refreshes you. With her other hand, she offers a small lump of natron, a naturally occurring salt mixture collected from dry lake beds. You rub this slightly abrasive natron between your palms and use it like soap on your skin. It has a gritty, alkaline feel. As you scrub gently, it lifts away the light sweat and oils of the night. Natron is what the Egyptians use for all kinds of cleansing. They'll even use it in mummification later. It's powerful stuff. Afterward, you take a linen washcloth and dip it in the basin, polishing your arms and legs. Some days you might add a pinch of scented oil or flower petals to the water, but today, just the clean water and natron do the job. Next, your servant brings a shallow bowl of fine sand. Yes, sand. Even the wealthy use it as a natural exfoliant. You take a handful of the slightly damp sand and rub it in gentle circles over your elbows and feet, areas prone to roughness. It sounds harsh, but the sand of the Nile is very fine and soft, almost like a scrub you might buy at a spa today. It sloughs off any dead skin. You rinse again. By now, your skin already feels smoother, and the mild stickiness of the night is gone. Perhaps once or twice a week, you indulge in a more luxurious treatment. Today happens to be such a day. Waiting in an alabaster jar on a nearby table is a treat. Donkey's milk, slightly fermented and mixed with honey. It's said that this is the secret to keeping skin youthful. You recall hearing how Queen Nefertiti herself was rumored to bathe in milk to keep her complexion clear. You don't have an entire tub of it here. That extravagance will be left to Cleopatra in a later age, who will supposedly keep 700 donkeys so she can bathe in their milk. But you have enough to use as a face and body wash. You dip your fingers into the jar. The milk is cool and a bit sour smelling, but not unpleasantly so because it's been infused with a few drops of fragrant oil of lavender. Gently, you smear the milk and honey blend over your face, neck, and arms. It feels silky and rich. In fact, what we know today, but you do not, is that the lactic acid in the sour milk is exfoliating your skin chemically, dissolving dead cells, while the honey moisturizes and kills bacteria. To you, it just feels like a soothing, moisturizing mask. You close your eyes for a moment and allow yourself a brief moment of stillness, breathing in the light, sweet scent. In the background, you can hear birds chirping in the garden and the distant swish of a servant sweeping the courtyard. It's a peaceful morning ritual, a meditative start to the day. While you let that milk and honey mask sit and work its magic, your attention turns to your hair and body. First, under your arms. Despite the morning coolness, the Egyptian climate will have you sweating soon enough. You take a little cone of something like a sticky resin from a dish. This is an aromatic deodorant made of ground fragrant wood, cinnamon, and myrrh, mixed with a bit of wax or gum. Essentially, an incense pellet for your armpits. You rub it under each arm, where it will slowly dissolve throughout the day and release a pleasant, spicy, sweet smell. Already, as the waxy cone warms against your skin, you catch a whiff of pine and cinnamon. This will keep you smelling divine even as you go about your activities. The Egyptians are fond of pleasant smells. They even said the gods themselves were identified by lovely fragrances. To smell bad is not just uncomfortable, it feels impious in a way. So you take care to anoint yourself with these deodorant cones every morning. Next comes overall moisture and sun protection for your skin. You reach for a small jar of oil. It's a blend of almond oil and moringa oil, with a hint of pressed frankincense resin that gives it a spicy, earthy aroma. You pour a little into your palm, and starting with your legs, rub the oil into your skin. Your servant helps reach your back and any spots you can't get. The oil feels luxuriant and leaves your skin gleaming in the soft light. This isn't just for beauty. Although it does give your limbs a lovely sheen, it's also practical. The dry Egyptian air can parch the skin, and the intense sun will wrinkle it before its time. By coating yourself in these nourishing oils, you keep your skin supple and create a slight barrier against the sun's rays. Not to mention, the scent of frankincense and almond is far more pleasant than the smell of sweat. The Egyptians have a saying that the gods smell of perfume while demons smell of stench. You certainly plan to smell godly today. By now, your face mask of milk and honey has done its magic. You rinse your face clean with cool water from a brass bowl, relishing the refreshing splash. As you pat your skin dry with a soft linen cloth, you revel in how smooth and invigorated your cheeks feel. It's as if that sweet mask washed away not only dead skin, but any lingering worries. A few cool droplets trickle pleasantly down your neck, sending a tiny shiver through you in the still morning air. You breathe deeply, enjoying the moment. Catching a glimpse of yourself in the polished bronze mirror on the table, you notice a lovely fresh glow on your face. You even find yourself smiling a little at the renewed visage looking back. The real fun is about to begin, the art of makeup, which you adore. On a beautifully carved wooden table nearby, you have laid out your cosmetics box. It's an ornamental chest made of smooth ebony, inlaid with ivory and semi-precious stones in floral patterns, a jewelry piece in itself. You open it to reveal an array of little compartments and jars. Within are all the tools and pigments you'll need to turn your freshly cleansed face into that iconic Egyptian visage we see on temple paintings. There are shallow carved stone bowls containing colored pastes, tiny alabaster jars with lids, and applicator sticks made of polished wood, bone, or ivory. Some of these items are heirlooms, passed from mother to daughter, along with the secrets of their use. Your servant, a young girl with deft hands, begins to help you with the preparations. She has already prepared some of the ingredients fresh this morning. For your eyes, she's made a small batch of green eye paint by crushing malachite stone, a deep green mineral, on a palette with a few drops of water and a bit of animal fat. The malachite came from the Sinai desert, traded by miners. Its powder is a vibrant emerald when applied. Egyptians love this green eyeshadow not only for its beauty, but also for its symbolic connection to the eye of Horus. They believe this color around the eyes invokes the protective power of the god Horus and wards off infections. You certainly find it enchanting. The servant uses a tiny spatula to transfer some of the malachite paste into a delicate little cup. Now, imagine yourself seated on a low stool, facing a polished bronze mirror propped on a stand. Its surface is so well buffed, you can see your reflection clearly, though with a warm, coppery tint. The servant dips a small, soft brush, made from bundled palm fibers, into the malachite paste. "Close your eyes, my lady," she says softly. You do so, and feel the cool touch of the paste as she gently paints it across your eyelids. The texture is silky thanks to the fat mixed in. It glides on like modern cream eyeshadow. She applies it generously from lash line to just below your brow bone, then does the same for the other eye. You can imagine how striking this green will look. The same shade as the face paint on statues of goddesses. There's a faint, earthy smell from the crushed malachite, reminding you of rain on stone. When you open your eyes and glance in the mirror, the effect is immediate. Your eyes already appear larger and more vibrant, framed by that rich green hue. It's bold, yes, but that's the point. In this age, nobility and divinity are associated with such dramatic eyes. The next step is perhaps the most important: Kohl eyeliner. No Egyptian look is complete without that characteristic black line extending from the corners of the eyes. On your table is a small alabaster jar containing the Kohl powder. Its lid, when removed, releases a very fine charcoal-like scent. This Kohl is made from galena, a dark gray lead ore, which has been ground into a fine powder and mixed with a bit of burnt frankincense and oil. It's been sitting and curing for weeks to mellow the harshness of the lead salts. Your cosmetic supplier takes pride in filtering and processing the Kohl to remove any impurities. You pick up your favorite applicator, a thin stick of ivory, its tip slightly rounded and stained from repeated use. With a steady hand, you've done this since you were a teen. You dip the stick into the Kohl powder, then bring it to your eye. Gently, you pull your lower eyelid down and press the stick against the inner rim, drawing it across in one smooth motion. The powder deposits a thick, smoky line of black. You repeat this on the upper lid, right along the lashes. A little kohl falls on your cheek. Your servant quickly wipes it away with a cloth dabbed in oil. You extend the line outward beyond the corner of your eye, then upward slightly toward the tip of your eyebrow, creating that timeless cat-eye swoop. With a few practice touches, a dark, dramatic outline now encircles both of your eyes, contrasting beautifully with the green malachite underneath. Instantly, you feel its effects. Not only do your eyes now command attention, but physically, the kohl makes the glare of the morning sun easier to bear. It's like ancient sunglasses, cutting the brightness. Also, there's a very mild cooling sensation. Some say that means it's warding off eye ailments. In fact, we now know the lead in the kohl can stimulate the production of nitric oxide in the tears, boosting immunity around the eyes. A nifty side effect the Egyptians might not have understood in chemical terms, but certainly appreciated in results. You simply know that wearing kohl seems to keep your eyes from getting red and irritated as often, so you love it. To finish the eye area, your servant takes a tiny brush and darkens your eyebrows. Unlike modern folks, Egyptians didn't have pencils, so she uses what you have, a paste of burnt almonds. Yes, last night she took a few almonds and roasted them until they charred to a deep black. She ground the char into a powder and mixed it with a touch of oil, making a natural charcoal pomade. Using a minuscule reed brush, she applies this to your brows, filling them out and extending their tails slightly toward your temples in an elegant arch. You check the mirror. Your eyebrows, once a bit sparse, are now dramatically present, perfectly balancing the heavy liner. Some fashionable women even completely shaved their natural brows to redraw them from scratch, but you prefer augmenting what's there. Next comes the coloring of your cheeks and lips. In one small dish is a red paste prepared from red ochre. Ochre is a clay tinted with iron oxide, basically a natural rust pigment. Your servant made this by taking a piece of red ochre stone, grinding it finely on a pallet, and mixing it with a dab of water and animal fat. The result is a creamy rouge. Using her fingertip, she dabs a bit onto the apples of your cheeks and gently spreads it. Instantly, it adds a healthy rosiness to your sun-bronzed skin, like a little bloom of youth. Another dab goes onto your lips. It feels a bit waxy on the lips. The animal fat acts as a lip balm base. To add more color, she layers a second coat. You press your lips together, setting the pigment. The color is not a bright scarlet as modern lipstick might be, but a more natural-looking reddish flush, like the color that graces the women in tomb paintings. It brings life to your face, complementing the green and black of your eyes. Sometimes, for special occasions, you might use a fancier lip color, perhaps a deep crimson made from crushed carmine beetles, or a magenta gleaned from certain iodine-rich salts. But those exotic ingredients can be harsh. Some imported lip colors, folks whisper, are even poisonous in large amounts. For daily wear, ochre is dependable and safe. A bonus, the iron in it might protect your skin a little from the sun, functioning like a primitive sunscreen on your cheeks. Practicality and beauty often go hand in hand in Egyptian cosmetics. Finally, a light dusting of a pale powder goes on your face to set everything and reduce shine. You have a dish of ground calcite, a light, chalky mineral. With a soft feather puff, you pat some of it along your T-zone, forehead, nose, chin, where you tend to get a bit oily by midday. The calcite leaves a faintly lighter cast at first, but quickly blends in, just giving your complexion a matte finish. Your servant also runs a bit of it down your neck and onto your chest, so your exposed skin all has a similar subtle glow. You don't aim to look white, Egyptians actually appreciate a golden skin tone, but this powder helps even out and highlight your face under the bright sun. Now it's time for hair. You have a decision to make each morning, wig or no wig. The noble class, and even many commoners, often shave their natural hair short or off entirely. It's cooler, avoids lice, and wigs are so much fun anyway. In your case, you keep your hair very short, just a couple of inches long. It's easier to fit under wigs that way. Today, you feel like wearing one of your wigs because you'll be receiving guests for a midday meal and want to look your most polished. From a carved wooden wig, stand in the corner, you lift your chosen style. It's a beautiful wig made of human hair, thick and black and cut in a blunt bob that falls just above your shoulders. The hair is arranged in many tiny braids bound with beeswax to keep them neat, and small gold beads are threaded onto a few strands here and there, twinkling when they catch the light. First, to prep your real hair, you rub a bit of castor oil onto your scalp. This will moisturize the skin and also help the wig stay in place. A trick of your favorite hairdresser. The castor oil is sticky, but you know it's also good for the health of your remaining hair. Fun fact, castor oil is something modern people still use to condition hair and eyebrows. You're ahead of your time. You place a thin linen cap over your hair, kind of like a wig cap. Then position the wig on your head. The weight is comforting and familiar. Immediately in the mirror, you transform. From a somewhat plain, shaven-headed woman to an elegant lady with a full, glossy head of hair. The wig's braids frame your face perfectly. Your servant secures the wig with a couple of small comb pins so it won't shift during the day. You're not done decorating. You select a fresh lotus blossom from a bowl of water. Lotus flowers are kept handy in wealthy homes as offerings and adornments. It's a lovely white lotus with a golden yellow center, just fully opened in the morning light. Lotuses bloom with the sun and close with darkness, a plant after Ra's own heart. Gently, you tuck the lotus above one ear, weaving its stem into the braid. As time passes, the flower's natural perfume will periodically waft to your nose, a sweet, earthy floral scent. You also tie a narrow fillet, headband, around your wig, a strip of embroidered linen adorned with tiny faience beads, the color of turquoise. This headband isn't just decorative, it will help absorb sweat on your brow later in the hot sun, preserving your makeup longer. Fashion and function combined, as always. At last, you stand up, fully dressed for the day. You choose a fine linen gown from your wardrobe. It's sleeveless, with two broad straps over the shoulders, and it clings and drapes gracefully around your body. The linen is virtually transparent in the light. High-quality Egyptian linen can be woven to a gossamer thinness, so you wear a second layer underneath, a wrapped sheath, for modesty. The gown is a pristine white, achieved by hours of bleaching in the sun by your laundry servants, and it feels cool against your oiled skin. You adorn your neck with a broad collar necklace made of dozens of rows of beads, carnelian orange, deep lapis lazuli blue, green malachite, and gold beads in between. When you move, it emits the faintest jingle. You slide on a few gold bangles engraved with tiny lotus patterns, gifts from your husband, and a pair of gold earrings shaped like delicate lilies. Each piece of jewelry was chosen to complement the colors of your makeup and the embroidery on your headband. There's a delightful harmony to it all, one that pleases the eye, but also, you feel, might please the gods who value Ma'at, cosmic order and harmony in all things. Can you smell the scene now? The faint sweetness of the lotus flower in your hair, the hint of aromatic incense still clinging under your arms. a whiff of the frankincense and almond oil on your glowing skin. Even your breath is fresh, because just before leaving your vanity, you popped a little pellet into your mouth. An ancient breath mint of sorts. It's a small ball made by boiling honey with herbs like cinnamon, mint, and myrrh until it thickens, then letting it cool into a chewable confection. As you slowly chew it, the pellet releases a spicy sweet taste that perfumes your breath, and likely also pleases whichever gods might be listening to your morning prayers. Egyptians invented these breath fresheners to combat bad mouth odor, something not uncommon when many people's teeth suffer wear from all the rough bread flour. You too, despite being well off, eat bread made with stone-ground flour that often has tiny grit and sand in it, over the years, that wears teeth down, leading to aches and not so fresh breath. But this morning, no one would guess such woes. To anyone greeting you, you smell delightful head to toe, like a walking bouquet of flowers touched with a hint of sacred incense. Now, Our Lady of Thebes is fully prepared and ready to go about her day's affairs. She steps out from her chambers into the airy hall of her villa, where servants are already bustling. They pause and bow respectfully as she passes. Her radiant, polished appearance reflects the harmony and order that every Egyptian strives for. Perhaps she will spend the morning overseeing the household, or paying a visit to the temple to make offerings. Whatever her agenda, she carries herself with confidence, knowing she has put her best face forward, literally and figuratively. In ancient Egypt, looking one's best was not vanity, but a sign of propriety and respect to the gods and fellow humans alike. Let's step away from the noble's villa and travel down a dusty road to a small village on the edge of the green Nile farmland. It's later in the morning now, and the sun is climbing toward its fierce midday peak. In a humble mud brick house, a farmer's wife has finished her early chores. We find her in the shade of a date palm next to her home, taking a short break after helping her husband in the fields at dawn. Beads of sweat dot her forehead from the field labor, and a few smudges of earth cling to her arms. She pours some water from a clay jar into a shallow basin and splashes her face. There's no servant to attend her. She alone is responsible for her beauty routine, modest as it may be. Nearby, her small daughter plays in the dirt with a homemade rag doll. The mother smiles and takes a moment to wipe the dust from the child's cheeks with a damp cloth. She even applies the tiniest smudge of Kohl under the toddler's eyes. It's a common belief that lining a baby's eyes with Kohl strengthens them and protects against the evil eye. The little one blinks up at her with big, darkly outlined eyes, now looking a bit like the statuettes of baby Horus. Thus, even from infancy, Egyptians are gently brought into the realm of these beauty and health rituals, cared for with the wisdom of generations. Now the mother turns back to her own routine. She doesn't have an elaborate cosmetic box. Her beauty kit is a simple basket on a shelf indoors, but she's resourceful with what she has. First, she washes up. Earlier in the morning, at the crack of dawn, she walked with other village women to the well or riverbank to bathe quickly. Privacy isn't much of an option in the river, so she wore a thin linen shift in the water. She scrubbed her limbs with sand just like the rich do. Sand is free and plentiful after all, and used a bit of coarse lye soap made from ash and oil that she traded some eggs for a while back. It got her skin clean, though it left her hands a bit dry. Now, a couple of hours later, after doing some field work, she's freshening up again at home. From her basket, she takes out a small lump of natron, the same cleansing salt we saw earlier. It's multi-purpose for her. Toothpaste, soap, laundry booster. Natron does it all. She dissolves a pinch in the water and with a rag wipes down her face, neck, and underarms. It stings slightly on the scratches on her hands from picking vegetables, but she likes that it makes her feel truly clean. There's a bit of grit in it, so it scrubs away the dirt effectively. In a corner of her home, this woman has her own little cosmetic stash, nothing as grand as the nobles, but precious to her nonetheless. She keeps a tiny ceramic pot of Kohl that she bought from a traveling peddler last year, a broken bit of mirror, just a shard of polished bronze she found discarded, a small stone palette for grinding pigments, and a few packets of herbs. One of those packets contains coarse salt and dried mint, her homemade tooth cleaning powder. She'll use that later by rubbing it on her teeth with her finger or a frayed twig to scrape away the grit from the bread she ate at breakfast. After washing, she rubs a dab of oil on her skin. It's not luxurious almond oil. More likely it's leftover sesame oil from cooking, or castor oil she rendered from castor beans by her hearth. It has a thick, slightly nutty smell. She doesn't have much, so she uses just a few drops on her hands and spreads it thinly over her face and arms. It gives her skin a bit of a protective layer against the dry wind and glaring sun. The oil also helps to mask body odor. Since perfumes are expensive, most common folk rely on oils or incense smoke clung to their clothing to smell decent. She's a young woman, maybe in her early 20s, but already much of her day is hard work under the sun. Still, like any woman or man in Egypt, she takes pride in her appearance as circumstances allow. Today, she decides to put on a little makeup. It's a normal day, but she'll be seeing neighbors at the market later and wants to feel confident and beautiful. She takes up her coal pot and wooden coal stick. Holding the mirror shard in one hand, it's small, so she must squint to see her reflection in its dim surface. She carefully lines her eyes with the soot-black coal. She has done this since she was a teenager, and could probably do it without a mirror at all. With a steady hand, she drags the stick along her lower eyelid, then the upper, creating a bold line that extends outward. Her coal isn't as fine or richly hued as the noble ladies. It might be mixed with more charcoal and less lead, making it a duller black, but it does the trick. In minutes, her eyes are strikingly outlined. Practical benefit. Once she goes back outside to tend the goats or fetch water, the sun's glare won't make her squint as much. The coal reduces the reflection of light into her eyes, and she, like most Egyptians, genuinely believes it protects her from illnesses of the eye that are common in this climate, flies and dust being constant irritants. Whether or not that's scientifically accurate, she's observed that she gets fewer eye infections when she wears her coal, so that's good enough for her. She doesn't have malachite green for eyeshadow. That's a luxury reserved for the rich and for temple statues. But sometimes she gets creative. Perhaps she crushes a bit of a green copper ore she found by the river to make a faint green tint on her eyelids during festivals. Or she might use the violet-colored berries of the local viburnum bush to add a bit of color. Not today, though. For daily wear, coal is enough around the eyes. When it comes to adding a bit of color or flair, our village woman can be creative. She can't afford pricey imported cosmetics, but she knows how to use what's at hand. In a tiny pouch, she has a piece of red ochre stone she picked up from the nearby desert cliffs. She takes that out and rubs it on her grinding palette with a drop of water, making a rudimentary reddish paint. Using her finger, she pats a small amount onto her lips to give them a healthy tint. It's subtle, but she instantly feels a little more put together. She even dabs the remainder on her cheeks and pinches them, imitating the flush that dancing or a cool breeze might bring. The color warms her sun-bronzed complexion. She smiles at the mirror shard, perhaps not as radiant as the wife of a governor, but certainly a bit of color makes her lively brown eyes shine more. Her nails are probably stained a faint orange, not by accident, but by design. If she can get or grow henna, a shrub that yields a red-orange dye, she will use it to tint her fingernails and the palms of her hands during celebrations or whenever she has a bit of extra dye. It's common among all classes for women, and even men sometimes, to henna their nails and fingertips. It strengthens the nails and looks pretty. Just last week, there was a village wedding, and she applied henna in intricate patterns on her hands for the occasion, a treat she relishes when the rare chance comes. The henna left a warm amber-orange stain that will gradually fade in a couple of weeks, but for now it adds a touch of decoration to her work-worn hands. She likes glancing at it, a reminder of joyful moments amid everyday toil. There's an old belief that henna brings blessings and luck, so she wears those fading henna lines like protective charms. So here we have two Egyptian mornings, one in a graceful villa with a chest of cosmetics, another in a humble farmhouse with makeshift beauty tools. Both our high-born lady and the farmer's wife, in their own ways, engaged in rituals of beautification as the sun rose. It's intriguing to see how much they share, despite their differences in wealth. Both bathed at dawn. Both lined their eyes with that signature Kohl for health and style. Both applied a touch of red to lips and cheeks, one using imported pigments from a stone vessel, the other using a rock from the desert and her own ingenuity. In ancient Egypt, grooming and cosmetics were a thread that ran through all levels of society. Beauty rituals were a great equalizer. Rich or poor, everyone sought to present themselves well, to honor their culture's love of appearance, hygiene, and fragrance. The wealthy just had more costly ingredients and elaborate routines, but the instinct to care for one's body, and perhaps even to please the gods by doing so, was universal. Now that the morning's routines are complete and the sun sits high in the sky, let's take a detour into the heart of the city, where the midday bustle offers another perspective on ancient Egyptian beauty culture. The marketplace awaits, full of color and scent, bridging the world of daily life and the luxuries we've been discussing. Before the sun reaches its zenith, the market square in Thebes is already humming with activity, a perfect opportunity to see how beauty goods fit into the wider world of Egyptian commerce and craft. Imagine stepping into a bustling marketplace around late morning. The air is a tapestry of scents and sounds, vendors calling out their wares in sing-song voices, goats bleating as they're led through narrow aisles, copper pans clanging, and everywhere delightful, and sometimes not so delightful, smells intermingling. Spices, roasted meat, dried fish, fresh dates, and yes, perfumes and cosmetics too. Our noble lady likely sends a servant or steward here regularly to purchase or barter for the ingredients of her beauty regimen. Even queens rely on the marketplace for supplies, and our village woman might come to market on certain days to trade eggs or woven linen for a bit of makeup or scented oil to treat herself. So the market is a grand equalizer where all classes cross paths. Under a patchwork of linen awnings that provide precious shade, merchants and buyers engage in lively haggling. Look over there. Beneath a bright blue awning is a perfume seller's stall. Clay and alabaster bottles of all shapes and sizes are displayed on wooden racks, catching the eye of passers-by. The perfumer, a middle-aged woman with a colorful wrap and an authoritative air, is currently engaged with a young man who looks a bit nervous. He's dressed in a plain tunic, perhaps a scribe's assistant or a junior priest, and he's here on a very personal mission: to buy a fragrance for the girl he loves. He hesitantly sniffs at a reed dipped in oil that the vendor is holding out. That one is Sefet, lily of the valley oil with a hint of honey, the vendor says warmly. The young man closes his eyes and breathes in. A slow smile spreads on his face. It's a soft, sweet scent, romantic and approachable. He imagines his beloved wearing it, the gentle perfume wafting from her skin on a warm evening. Still, he furrows his brow. Perhaps he's not entirely convinced it's special enough. Sensing this, the perfumer quickly uncorks a small alabaster jar. "Now this," she whispers. "This is Henniket, the real thing, an import from the land of Punt." She waves the jar under his nose. A rich, resinous aroma fills the air. It's myrrh, deep and mysterious, mixed with cinnamon and a touch of citrusy frankincense. This is the luxury stuff, myrrh resin imported across the Red Sea, very costly. The young man's eyes widen. It smells like the inside of a temple, holy and intoxicating. "Only for the most special woman," the perfumer adds slyly. He gulps. The price she's asking is high. A whole deben of copper, which might be a month's wage for him. He imagines his sweetheart's delight at receiving such a treasure, and ultimately nods. Coins and a small sack of lentils, thrown in to sweeten the deal, exchange hands, and the alabaster jar of myrrh perfume is carefully wrapped in linen for him. He tucks it into a pouch at his waist, standing a little taller now. He has a gift worthy of the tales of old. Nearby, the next stall over, a woman with kohl-rimmed eyes even more dramatic than our noble ladies is selling cosmetics and pigments. She's an artisan who grinds and mixes makeup for a living. Her stall is marked by a wooden sign painted with a large black eye, easy advertising for the illiterate. On her table are small piles of minerals, malachite stones, dark galena ore, red ochre pebbles, alongside reed baskets containing prepared powders and pastes. Two sisters, teenage daughters of a farmer, are her customers at the moment. They have saved up a bit of money in chicken eggs to barter and are eyeing a little pot of green eye paint. The seller takes a pinch of the malachite powder and mixes it with oil on a palette, showing how smoothly it applies to the skin on the back of her hand. The sisters exchange an excited look. They've likely never worn malachite eyeshadow before, but there's a festival coming up and they want to look their prettiest. The price the cosmetic seller asks is reasonable, thanks to malachite being locally sourced, and soon the girls hand over a few copper bits and a basket of eggs. In return, they receive a tiny alabaster jar of green eye paint, and, as a kind bonus, the seller throws in a cheap wooden applicator stick. "Careful not to poke your eye," she chides affectionately as the girls thank her profusely. They walk away, chattering about how they'll surprise everyone with their glamorous eyes at the festival. Across the way, under a palm-thatched canopy, the wigmaker and barber has set up shop. Strands of human hair in various lengths and shades hang like peculiar streamers from a rope, raw material waiting to be crafted into wigs or extensions. On a wig stand sits a finished product, a men's wig of short black curls, smelling faintly of beeswax, used to style it. Right now, a customer, a businessman from town, is sitting on a stool while the barber fits him with a new wig. The man had thinning hair and decided to splurge on a wig to boost his confidence. He grins as the barber secures the hairpiece and holds up a bronze mirror. Indeed, he looks 10 years younger and notably wealthier. Wigs are something of a status symbol. He pays the barber with a little sack of grain. Barter is common here. That grain may feed the barber's family for days. Meanwhile, off to one side of this stall, another barber's apprentice is busy shaving a peasant's head. With deft strokes of a bronze razor, He shaves the scalp clean. The peasant chose to go bald to avoid the infernal lice that plague farmers who work with farm animals. The apprentice then rubs a soothing paste of crushed mint and oil on the man's head, like aftershave. The man closes his eyes in relief at the cooling sensation. The barber doesn't only cater to the rich. Even workers come for practical grooming like shaves, knowing it's healthier and frankly more comfortable in the heat. Not far from the mirror cellar, an elderly woman squats beside a reed basket filled with little clay pots and packets of dried herbs. She's a local healer and beauty consultant rolled into one, and a small crowd, mostly women with a few curious husbands, has gathered around her. In a raspy voice, she advertises her special creams and potions. Here's a face cream of finest frankincense and moringa oil. Smooth this on at night and watch those wrinkles fade like the stars at dawn, she pronounces, holding up a tiny pot. She then pats a young man on the shoulder and winks. And for you, son, I have a tonic to restore a receding hairline, made from real hippopotamus fat and powdered donkey hoof, an old secret of the priests. Some listeners stifle laughter at the outrageous ingredients, but a balding fellow in the back actually steps forward to haggle for the hair tonic. The healer also has packets of tooth powder, salt and mint to freshen the breath, and little incense cones for home use. Whether all her products work as promised is anyone's guess, but her earnest spiel and folksy charisma are convincing. Many Egyptians will try anything if it offers a chance at better health or beauty. Not so different from us today, when we chase the latest skin serum or herbal cure. All around, the marketplace is a sensory feast. Baskets of spices from far lands create a nose-tingling melange. Here is cumin and coriander for cooking. There is myrrh and frankincense for incense and perfume. In fact, one can see an incense trader showing off precious nuggets of frankincense resin to a temple priest. The priest breaks one resin tear in half and inhales the piney, citrusy aroma deeply. He's discerning the quality to ensure it's good enough for burning at the evening offering to Amun. Frankincense and myrrh are expensive imports from the fabled land of Punt, likely Somalia today. Queen Hatshepsut, over 500 years earlier, famously sent an expedition to Punt and brought back whole myrrh trees and boatloads of resin, establishing a trade that still continues. Thanks to ventures like hers, the marketplace now has these aromatic treasures, though at a steep price. Only the temples and the very rich buy myrrh by the sack. Common folk might buy just a bead or two of it on special occasions to fumigate their homes and clothes with the holy scent. Not all wares are so exotic. Many beauty ingredients are locally sourced. In one corner, a farmer's wife turned small-time merchant has a stall of her own. She sells combs and cosmetic accessories her carpenter husband carves from acacia wood and bone. She enthusiastically shows a customer a set of hair combs tied together by a string. They feature carved handles in the shape of Hathor's face. For even in tools, a bit of beauty and piety shows. The customer, a young mother, buys a comb to replace the one her toddler accidentally broke. Along with it, she picks up a cheap mirror, just a piece of highly polished copper, so she can more easily apply her own Kohl in the mornings, rather than borrowing her neighbor's mirror. The merchant wraps the mirror in straw, and the transaction is done with a trade of a small bag of onions from the young mother's garden. Barter and coin mingle freely here. There is also a jeweler's stall not far off, because adornment in Egypt isn't complete without jewelry. Strings of faience beads, glazed ceramic in brilliant turquoise blue, hang in loops, catching the sunlight like rows of tiny summer skies. A little girl tugs at her mother's hand, begging for a single bead bracelet. The mother shakes her head kindly, and instead buys her a cheap clay amulet of Bez, the dwarf god who protects households and children. It will serve both as jewelry and a protective charm for the child. At the same stall, a wealthy man's housekeeper is picking up a repaired gold necklace. Her mistress's favorite piece had snapped, and the jeweler deftly soldered the delicate chain back together with his tiny charcoal forge and copper tools. The housekeeper inspects the repair closely, squinting in the bright light, and seems satisfied as she exchanges a few shiny new coins for the service. One elegant gentleman in a linen kilt stops at the jeweler's to examine something special: an inlaid cosmetics spoon. This is not a spoon for eating, but a little handheld dish used to mix makeup. It's carved to depict a swimming girl. The shallow bowl of the spoon is held aloft in her outstretched arms. It's a luxury item, perhaps intended as a wedding gift for someone. The gentleman admires the fine detail, and the jeweler explains that the piece symbolizes a swim in the sacred Nile, purifying and renewing, a fitting motif for a cosmetics dish. After a bit of bargaining, the gentleman purchases it, commenting that the bride will be pleased with so beautiful and practical a gift. Wandering through this market, you realize that an entire economy and artistry supports those mourning rituals we saw. The noble lady's expensive unguents and the village girl's bit of red ochre both passed through many hands to reach them. There were miners in the Sinai who risked their lives to quarry malachite for eye paint. There were sailors who braved the Red Sea to bring back incense and exotic resins, farmers who grew almonds and pressed them into oil, chemist priests who guarded recipes for perfumes and medicines, craftsmen who carved and fired the very jars and pallets used to store and mix the precious cosmetics. All these people are here by proxy in the marketplace. We have perfumers, Kohl sellers, wig makers, bead stringers, incense traders, and folk healers all plying their trade, all contributing to the beauty culture of ancient Egypt. By late afternoon, the intense heat begins to soften. The high sun has driven many merchants to lazily fan themselves in the shade, their voices a bit drowsy now. Shopkeepers sprinkle water on the ground to cool and settle the dust. People retreat to rest. Maybe our noble lady has gone home for a light lunch in her shaded courtyard, and our village woman finds a nook to sit and sip some cool barley beer. Those planning to celebrate later, and many are, for tonight is the monthly festival of Hathor in town, begin thinking of how to use the new goodies they've acquired. Our noblewoman servants start chilling jugs of wine and laying out fine linen mats for tonight's banquet, while in the village, our farmer's wife carefully unwraps her little vial of jasmine perfume and smiles, saving it for the dance around the bonfire later. The stage is nearly set for the evening's merriment. As the sun sinks low and paints the western horizon orange, the air finally cools. A soft twilight breeze carries the promise of a comfortable night. Now, as dusk falls, the real festivities of the day are about to begin. Picture a grand banquet hall as the purple glow of sunset filters in. In Thebes, our noble lady, freshly rested and recoiffed, is arriving at a friend's villa for an evening feast. The banquet room opens onto a lush garden where date palms and acacias sway gently. Lanterns and oil lamps are being lit, their golden lights twinkling to life along the colonnades. Musicians in one corner strike up melodic tunes on harps and flutes, filling the air with lively yet soothing music. A troupe of young dancers enters, their slender bodies adorned only with wisps of sheer linen and intricate tattoos of lotus blossoms and protective symbols across their arms and thighs. As they twirl to the music, their tattoos flicker under the lamplight, adding an exotic mystique to the atmosphere. The dancers, too, wear tiny cones of scented wax atop their braided wigs, and as they sway gracefully, You can see the wax beginning to soften and melt, sending rivulets of perfumed oil over their bronzed skin. It gives them a shimmering sheen, and with each spin, they release a fresh wave of myrrh and jasmine fragrance into the air. Guests smile and fan themselves, pleasantly overcome by the sensual beauty of the performance. At the banquet, everyone is dressed in their best. Our Lady of Thebes is here, of course. We recognize her signature bob wig and broad collar necklace. She greets her friends with hugs and the customary cheek kisses. Each lady here seems to be in friendly competition to outshine the next. One has dusted real gold powder across her décolletage, so she literally sparkles. Another's wig is adorned with fresh roses. Yet another wafts an ostrich feather fan that has been dipped in perfume. The men have not slacked either. Perfumed oils glisten on their shaved heads, and many wear small collars of flowers or gilt charms. A warm chorus of voices rises as guests compliment each other. You look as radiant as Hathor tonight. That scent, is it the new lotus unguent? Divine. Laughter and clinking cups follow. As people recline on low couches and servants circulate with trays of dates, figs, and roasted meats, the beauty rituals continue in a communal way. Each guest has been given a little present upon arrival, a cone of perfumed wax, like the ones the dancers wear. In fact, you'll see nearly every adult guest, men and women alike, with a wax cone perched atop their wigs or natural hair. It's quite a sight to the uninitiated. Imagine walking into a party today and seeing everyone balancing little pyramids on their heads. But here, it's the height of fashion and luxury. Those cones are made of tallow mixed with fragrant resin and oils. As the body heat of the guests and the general warmth of the crowded room works on them, they slowly melt. A couple of hours into the banquet, each guest will have a trickle of perfumed oil running down the sides of their face and neck, imbued into their wigs and clothes. It might seem messy, but the Egyptian elite adore it. It ensures that the entire hall is redolent of perfume from start to finish, and by the end of the night, everyone is literally bathed in scent. The cones are often made with the finest fragrances reserved for such feasts. Think of exotic Kaifai incense and blue lotus essence blended in fat. The smell is luxurious indeed, a far cry from sweat or the dust of the day. Servants roam the room with little bowls of additional perfume and scented water. They occasionally sprinkle the ground with myrrh-infused water to keep it cool and aromatic, also to settle the dust from all the dancing and foot traffic. Some servants carry incense burners, wafting curls of frankincense smoke that mingle with the perfume cone's aroma to create layers of scent: floral, spicy, resinous, honeyed. The combination is almost intoxicating. It's no wonder the Egyptians associated good scent with divine bliss. At one end of the hall, platters of food emit their own tempting scents: coriander-spiced roast duck, honey-glazed bread, garlic, and leek stews. But even these are complemented by floral touches: lotus stems in the salad, rose petals garnishing a dessert. The Egyptians want every sense indulged: soft music, beautiful decorations, delicious flavors, and of course, everyone smelling like paradise. Maybe a little dish of kaifi is burning in a corner of the banquet hall, adding to the dreamy atmosphere with its sweet, complex aroma. Kaifi itself was a special concoction. Priests and perfumers crafted it by blending wine, honey, raisins, and over a dozen herbs and resins in a precise, days-long ritual. They believed its rich, layered scent could soothe the spirit and even promote health. A sweet waft of Kaifai smoke curls from a brazier near the musicians, providing a calming counterpoint to the lively chatter and laughter of the guests. almost like an ancient aromatherapy, ensuring everyone stays relaxed and happy. Now, in contrast, let's peek at the village on this same night. Under the blanket of stars, near the edge of the fields, a great bonfire crackles and pops. Our farmer's wife has come out after dinner to join her neighbors in a little celebration of their own. Perhaps it's a local harvest festival, or simply a social gathering on a pleasant night. They have no fine lamps or painted banquet halls. Instead, the golden firelight dances over happy, shiny faces. They don't have fancy perfume cones, but perhaps someone brought a bundle of green sage and sweet grass to throw onto the fire. As it burns, it releases a pleasant, homey aroma that drifts over the celebrants. Their music is the clap of hands, the thump of a homemade drum, and the reedy cheer of a single flute played by the village elder. Barefoot children skip around the edges of the fire, trying to mimic the grown-ups' dance steps. The women have threaded white jasmine and bright marigold blossoms into their braided hair as makeshift crowns, and the men tap their feet on the dusty earth, kicking up little puffs as they move in rhythm. Someone passes around jugs of beer, a thick, hearty home brew made from fermented barley bread sweetened with date juice. Its yeasty, slightly sour aroma mingles with the wood smoke from the bonfire and the faint scent of garlic and cumin from a pot of stew simmering nearby. Even during a party, there's always food cooking in Egypt. It's a feast for all the senses here too, albeit a humble one. The flickering firelight paints everyone in a warm amber glow. The beer is cool and invigorating as they take swigs from the communal jar, and the music, though without harps and lyres, has a contagious joy that gets everyone swaying. There is joyous laughter as a grandmother suddenly trills a zelagut, that high-pitched ululation, to signal her happiness. A pair of young lovers steal shy glances at each other across the fire, cheeks flushed, perhaps from the heat or the beer or both. The girl gently touches the new necklace of blue beads her sweetheart traded for in the market. She's wearing it tonight, and it glimmers in the fire's glow. It's not gold, but to her it's the most precious thing she owns. Our farmer's wife dabs a bit of that jasmine oil she bought behind her ears and on her wrists. Even though she's already sweating from dancing, she feels confident knowing she has a gentle floral aura around her. She grabs the hands of two friends and pulls them into a circle dance. Their laughter rings out into the night. They may not have lavish luxury, but here, under the same stars as those noble banqueters in Thebes, these villagers are also reveling in beauty, the natural beauty of community, music, and simple adornments. They've made themselves and their surroundings as lovely as they can, clean and in fresh clothes, decorated with flowers and scented herbs. In this way, the spirit of Egyptian beauty rituals touches every gathering, rich or poor. It's all about creating a little oasis of pleasure and meaning in a tough world, be it through costly perfumes or a garland of wildflowers. As the night deepens, both the grand feast and the rustic bonfire party begin to wind down. In the city banquet hall, the guests are deliciously drowsy after hours of music, food, and wine. The perfume cones on their wigs have fully melted, leaving their hair glistening and their garments imbued with a strong, sweet smell that will probably linger for days. A pleasant reminder of the revelry they shared. Servants extinguish some of the lamps to signal the end of the night's entertainment. Guests stretch and yawn, and some playfully comment that they'll need an extra bath in the morning to wash off all the mixed perfumes now coating their skin. At the village fire, the logs have burned low to glowing coals. Neighbors exchange goodbye hugs, still smiling from the dance. Our farmer's wife, pleasantly exhausted, scoops up her dozing daughter, who finally tuckered herself out playing tag in the dark, and carries her home under her shawl, which now smells of smoke and sage. She's tired, but she knows the memories of laughter and song will make tomorrow's work lighter. It's worth remembering that as much as Egyptians loved beauty, they also understood its deeper importance. These rituals were not only about vanity, they had spiritual and cultural significance too. Cosmetics were often linked with protection. The very word for cosmetics in Egyptian, uju, comes from their word for protection. That sharp kohl line wasn't just fashionable, it was thought to guard the eyes, and in a spiritual sense, guard one's soul through the all-seeing eye of Horus. Palettes for grinding makeup were carved with images of gods and sacred symbols, effectively turning a mundane act of applying makeup into a tiny ritual of cosmic order. The meaningful role of cosmetics in beauty was also carried over into death. Burial sites from the earliest times show that Egyptians, men, women, and even children, were equipped with grooming tools for their journey to the afterlife. Combs, mirrors, little jars of unguents, and makeup applicators have been found tucked into tombs alongside more utilitarian goods. The message is clear. Looking and feeling one's best was expected to be as important in the next life as in this one. The tomb of King Tutankhamun, for example, contained jars of perfumed oils and unguents, some still retaining a whisper of their scent after 3,300 years, and boxes of cosmetic powders, so the young pharaoh could maintain his regal appearance in eternity. Imagine the embalmers in the necropolis working on a departed noble. They cleanse the body with palm wine and water from the Nile, then carefully anoint the skin with fragrant unguents, the same costly myrrh, lotus, and cinnamon oils the person used in life, now used to preserve and honor in death. They even place a wig upon the shaven head of the mummy and paint the face with cosmetic pigments. On the mummy's gold funerary mask, the features are idealized. Smooth, youthful skin, lips tinted a subtle red, eyes outlined in eternal kohl. The deceased is thus presented to the gods in an immortal state of perfected beauty, prepared to make a good impression in the Hall of Judgment. We might closely associate the Egyptians with their dramatic beauty looks, largely because of their prolific use on mummies and death masks. Those idealized visages, dark, kohl-rimmed eyes, and serene smiles, were deliberate. They believed one should meet the gods looking one's best, just as in life one should honor the gods by caring for the body they gave you. Mummification itself, in fact, followed many of the daily self-care rituals Egyptians practiced when alive. Bodies were shaved clean, washed thoroughly, perfumed and oiled from head to toe, and even had makeup and henna applied for burial. One could say the embalmers were the last beauticians, sending people off well-groomed into eternity. Now, not all beauty practices were purely comfortable or glamorous. We must talk about a few of the more unusual ingredients and methods the ancient Egyptians tried in their quest for youth and allure, the weird of our story. Some of these might make you raise an eyebrow or wrinkle your nose. Remember how we mentioned hippo fat and donkey hoof in that healer's hair tonic at the market? That's not far-fetched. The Egyptians had recipes to prevent baldness that read like witches' brews. They would mash up all manner of animal fats, from crocodile, snake, even lion, and apply it to the scalp, hoping the magical essence of those beasts might spur hair growth. Did it work? Probably not in the way they hoped, if only curing baldness were that easy. But maybe the massaging of the scalp with oils had a small benefit. Regardless, men of the time, including pharaohs, were very self-conscious about hair. Many just wore wigs to solve the problem instead of the smelly animal fat potions. Still, it's fascinating and a little amusing to see what lengths they went to. How about skincare beyond milk baths? Well, Cleopatra, who lived near the end of Egyptian civilization, a Greek by blood but Egyptian by soul, was said to have tried some truly bizarre treatments. One that often gets cited is the crocodile dung face mask. Yes, you heard that correctly. According to later legends, perhaps exaggerations by the Romans, Cleopatra would mix crocodile excrement with mud and donkey's milk and apply it to her face as a rejuvenating mask. The idea might have been that the dung, being alkaline, would exfoliate or tighten the skin. Did it actually? Likely the only thing it tightened was the nostrils of anyone nearby. We can imagine her handmaidens suppressing grimaces as they prepared this concoction. There's no solid evidence every Egyptian queen did this, but it's documented that crocodile dung was used as an ingredient in some medicinal and cosmetic recipes of the era, even as a contraceptive pessary, strangely enough. Chalk it up to, don't knock it till you've tried it. Though I think we'll happily knock it and not try it in this case. Another odd cosmetic practice. Some women used ground ants and crushed beetles to redden their lips and cheeks. There was a species of beetle, the Kermes insect, a distant cousin of the later famous cochineal of the Americas, that produces a crimson dye. To the Egyptians, nothing was too odd if it gave a desirable color or effect. So yes, a wealthier fashionista might pay for a little box of crushed beetle red to mix into her lip paint for an especially vivid pout. Unbeknownst to them, that beetle-based dye sometimes contained bromine, which in large doses is toxic, leading to the rather morbid phrase, the kiss of death, for overly painted lips. We don't know if anyone literally died from wearing Egyptian lipstick, but it's a fact that some ancient cosmetics had dangerous substances. The thing is, they knew that too, which is why they processed the heck out of them. Kohl, for instance, if applied straight as lead or powder, could poison you over time. But the Egyptians learned to synthesize it and soak it for weeks in mixtures that reduced the toxicity. Clever, right? They found a balance, strong enough to kill bacteria, weak enough, hopefully, not to kill the wearer. In a way, ancient Egyptian cosmetics walked a fine line between poison and cure. Let's take wrinkles, a concern that transcends time. The Ebers Medical Papyrus, an ancient Egyptian scroll full of remedies from around 1550 BCE, includes a recipe for transforming an old man into a youth. Optimistic, to say the least. One such anti-wrinkle potion suggests taking gum of frankincense, wax, moringa oil, ground cypress grass, and fermenting it all together into a cream to apply daily. Honestly, that's not far off from some modern anti-aging creams that use plant oils and resins. Frankincense actually is used in some contemporary skincare for its collagen-boosting properties. Another recipe advises a face mask of mashed fenugreek seeds. Fenugreek is rich in vitamins and nicotinic acid, which might indeed improve skin texture a bit. So while they had some wild ideas, they also had some shockingly sound ones. Honey, for instance, was a big component of their skin care and medicine. We know today it's antibacterial and promotes wound healing. They used aloe vera for skin ailments. Again, a well-known soothing plant. In many ways, ancient Egyptian beauty rituals were an early form of what we now call self-care, blending a bit of science, a bit of magic, and a lot of observation and experience. Now, our journey wouldn't be complete without revisiting the most famous Egyptian of all, Cleopatra VII, last pharaoh of Egypt. We've mentioned her occasionally, but let's truly step into her world for a few minutes to see how some of these traditions culminated in her legendary routine. It's a late night in Alexandria, around 50 BCE. The Ptolemaic palace by the Mediterranean Sea is lit by perfumed lamps. Cleopatra, in her private quarters, is preparing for one of the most important meetings of her life, a rendezvous with the Roman general Mark Antony. This is the meeting that history and Shakespeare alike will immortalize. She's determined to make an unforgettable impression. Earlier that day, we know Cleopatra ordered a barge to be prepared, a magnificent ship with purple sails, and she had those sails soaked in perfume. Yes, she literally saturated the canvas in aromatic oils. When she sailed to meet Antony on the Cydnus River, the winds carried the perfume to the shore well before her arrival, enchanting his senses. So that's one example of her dramatic use of scent on a grand scale. But right now, in her chambers, the focus is on her personal presentation. She reclines in a bath filled not with water, but with donkey milk, like our noble lady did in a small way. Cleopatra does in excess. In fact, ancient sources claim she kept hundreds of lactating donkeys on hand so she could bathe in their milk daily. By this time, it's not superstition. Donkey milk is one of her tried and true beauty secrets, known to soften skin and erase fine lines. We know it's high in vitamins and lactic acid, a natural exfoliant. Cleopatra's attendants have also mixed into the bath rose petals, her favorite flower, and a sprinkling of saffron threads, which tint the bath water a golden hue and leave a gentle fragrance on her skin. Warm steam rises from the marble tub in her candlelit bathing chamber, smelling of roses, milk, and the faint metallic tang of saffron. She closes her eyes and lets the warmth relax her while 4 handmaidens stand by, ready with linen towels and more rose-scented water for rinsing. After soaking, Cleopatra steps out and is wrapped in soft linens. Her skin, already glistening from the oils in the milk, is patted dry. She inspects her arms and smiles. As legend has it, they are smooth as silk, but she's far from done. Next, her chief handmaiden brings forth Cleopatra's cosmetic box. Reputedly, Cleopatra had written a whole book on cosmetics, a text of recipes and remedies. She was a scholar as much as a queen. From it, she takes out a Kohl pot, a palette of powdered malachite, and the various pigments, much like our noble lady used. Despite being queen, Cleopatra doesn't leave everything to her servants. She applies much of her makeup herself, being skilled in the art, perhaps the world's first beauty influencer. With precise hands, she paints the distinctive Egyptian eyeliner on herself, extending it far towards her temples in a dramatic flourish. For Cleopatra favors a particularly elongated wing. She believes it gives her an aura of divinity, resembling the goddess Isis's eyes. She applies a shimmering, crushed blue shadow, made from rare lapis lazuli, on her eyelids. A bold choice. Lapis is as costly as jewels, but she wants to shine like the sky goddess Nut tonight. Her maids then rouge her cheeks with a mix of red ochre and crushed carmine beetles to give an extra vibrant flush. One maid murmurs that the recipe came from Cleopatra's own cosmetics manual. On her lips, Cleopatra daringly uses a concoction of crushed red beetles and ants. It sounds repulsive, but it yields a deep carmine color, unmatched by plain ochre. To ensure the mixture doesn't harm her, her personal physician had added some ground carob pods believed to negate poisons. Satisfied with the brilliant color, Cleopatra smiles, careful not to smudge the still drying lip color, and reveals teeth cleaned with a mixture of salt, pepper, and mint. She's one of the few in her time with access to fine ground pumice for scrubbing teeth, and she uses wine mixed with mastic resin as a mouthwash. She is meticulous about fresh breath, knowing how closely one speaks in whispered palace conversations. Now comes the crowning glory, her hair and scent. Cleopatra's dark hair has been styled in an elegant Greek-influenced updo. She is Macedonian Greek by lineage, after all. Likely a low knot at the back with ringlet curls framing her face, set off by a small gold diadem depicting the Uraeus serpent, the emblem of pharaohs. But before the diadem goes on, Cleopatra's maids do something interesting. They take out a cone of solid perfume, similar to those banquet cones, and gently warm it over a candle just for a second to soften it. Then they press it into her hair, just at the crown, before fixing her diadem in place. It's a smaller cone than usual, hidden under her coiffed curls. Cleopatra devised this trick so that as the night wore on, a gentle halo of her signature scent would emanate from her like an invisible aura. What is her signature scent? From accounts, it might have been kyphi or a special blend called Mendesian oil, which contained myrrh, cassia, olive oil, and a bit of resin from the balsam tree, rich, dark, and spicy sweet. She also adored rose oil. Famously, when she first seduced Julius Caesar, she doused the floors of her palace chamber, knee-deep in rose petals, so that the air was thick with their perfume. Let's imagine entering Cleopatra's chamber at the final stage of her preparation. The cool Mediterranean breeze wafts in from a balcony, ruffling the gauzy curtains. Cleopatra stands there, resplendent in a gown of white pleated linen shot through with golden thread. Around her neck lies a broad gold and emerald necklace depicting the goddess Isis spreading her wings. Cleopatra often aligned herself with Isis. The oils on her skin catch the lamplight, so she seems to glow. As she moves, a subtle spice and floral scent trails behind, an intoxicating mixture of blue lotus, another of her favorites, and cinnamon, layered over the base of myrrh and rose from her bath. She has literally become a living perfume. Her attendants are giving her a final once-over. One adjusts the fall of her dress, another fans her lightly so she doesn't perspire before the encounter. A third carefully carries a small alabaster jar filled with fresh rosewater for any touch-ups needed during the evening. Cleopatra breathes deeply, knowing she's done all she can to enhance what nature gave her. The rest will be in her intellect and charm, which by all records were formidable. If beauty were a weapon, she is armed to the teeth. In fact, Cleopatra's legendary meeting with Mark Antony did become the template for luxury seduction. When she hosted him in Alexandria, she famously had the floors carpeted a foot deep in rose petals. Imagine that. You walk into a grand hall and wade through soft, velvety rose petals up to your shins, crushing them with each step, releasing a heady, romantic perfume that clings to your sandals and clothes. It's said the extravagance astounded Antony. He, a Roman used to luxury, was nevertheless blown away by the sheer excess and sensuality Cleopatra orchestrated. And that was precisely her aim: to conquer not through war, but through a total sensory experience of art, scent, beauty, and wit. While Cleopatra might be an extreme example, her routine underscores how advanced and dedicated Egyptian beauty practices had become by her era. She was, in a sense, the ultimate beneficiary of 3,000 years of Egyptian cosmetic knowledge. The milk baths, the kohl, the henna, the perfumes. She took all those old practices and elevated them into an art form of statecraft. For Cleopatra, beauty rituals were more than personal vanity. They were tools of influence and diplomacy. But at their core, they were still the same humble rituals of self-care that every Egyptian knew. After Cleopatra's time, under Roman rule, some Egyptian customs mingled with Roman ones. Roman ladies, for example, quickly adopted the Egyptian habit of bathing in donkey milk. The Emperor Nero's wife, Poppaea, did so daily, directly inspired by Cleopatra's regime. And through all these changes, many Egyptian traditions of self-care quietly endured. Even in later centuries, Egyptians, whether under Greek, Roman, or Arab rule, still applied Kohl to their eyes, still prized fragrant oils for bathing, and still passed beauty recipes from mother to daughter. The details and religious context may have changed, but the basic desire to look and feel one's best remained. In truth, whenever you pick up an eyeliner pencil or luxuriate in a scented bath today, you're carrying on a small part of that ancient routine that began on the banks of the Nile so many millennia ago. Even Egyptian love poetry celebrated these qualities. One surviving love song imagines a young man describing his beloved's enchanting appearance. Her eyes are coal-lined stars of the dawn. Her lips are red as a pomegranate's rind. When she walks by, my heart is drawn, like a bee to the lotus fragrance she leaves behind. In such verses, we see how deeply beauty and romance were intertwined in daily life. Cosmetics and perfumes becoming metaphors for love itself. We have journeyed through the scented, colorful world of ancient Egyptian beauty rituals and learned that behind those seemingly weird practices were real wisdom and a profound love of life's pleasures. The Egyptians sought to make life more beautiful in every sense, and that's something truly relatable and comforting. It reminds us that across ages and distances, humans share so much. We all seek a bit of glamour, a bit of self-confidence, and sometimes even a bit of magic in our daily routines. Think of the many scenes we've witnessed. A young mother lining her baby's eyes with protective kohl at sunrise. An elegant noblewoman reclining in a bath of milk and rose petals. Merchants in the market haggling over the price of a fragrant oil. A farmer's wife carefully applying her precious bit of red ochre while peering into a bronze mirror shard. A circle of villagers dancing under the stars with flowers in their hair. And a queen luxuriating in extravagance, her attendants massaging her with aromatic oils. Each scene, from the simplest to the most opulent, shows a thread of continuity, a love for beauty, comfort, and self-expression that ties all these people together. We traveled from dawn to dusk, from humble cottage to royal palace, and found that in every corner of Egyptian life there was a touch of cosmetic magic. As night envelops ancient Egypt, imagine the land slowly going quiet. In the great cities, families extinguish their lamps and lie down on their rooftops to catch the cool night breeze, their bodies still carrying the subtle scents of the oils and incense from earlier. In the villages, crickets chirp in the bushes, and the last glow of the hearth highlights a mother's henned hands as she pats her child to sleep. The Nile's waters reflect the silver light of the rising moon. Perhaps from a distant temple across the water, you catch a faint hint of incense on the breeze and the soft echo of a priest's last evening chant. These gentle sounds and aromas mingle with the night air, soothing you even further. Overhead, the Milky Way spills across the sky, the same cosmic river of stars the Egyptians saw every night and likened to the goddess Nut, arching protectively over the world. In these moments of reflection, you feel connected to those people who lived so long ago. They looked up at these same stars after finishing their nighttime routines, perhaps thanking their gods for the simple blessings of a bath, a perfume, a comfortable bed. History often remembers wars and great monuments, but in doing so, we sometimes forget the intimate, humanizing details of life, like how a woman prepared herself for the day, or how a man might fret over losing his hair. Yet, It's in those details that the ancient Egyptians become truly alive to us. We can smile thinking of a pharaoh's bald head being polished every morning, or a farmer's child giggling as her mother dots Kohl on her nose. Through these stories, we see that ancient people were, in many ways, just like ourselves, finding joy in a refreshing bath at day's end, confidence in a touch of makeup, and comfort in the familiar scent of home. We, lying here in the modern dark with our electric lights and store-bought creams, can take comfort in the continuity of it all. When you dab on moisturizer or brush your teeth at night, you're part of a ritual chain stretching back to those Nile bathers. True, we might be using a lavender-scented soap instead of natron or a sonic toothbrush instead of a chew stick, but the intention is the same: to care for ourselves, to present our best face to the world, and perhaps to unwind and feel a bit special. It's time now to leave ancient Egypt behind for the night and drift into our own dreams. In your mind's eye, let the images we've gathered gently fade: the sunlit Nile mornings, the fragrant bustling markets, the music and laughter under desert skies. Picture instead a calm Egyptian night on the Nile. Imagine yourself on a small boat drifting along the dark water. The air is warm, filled with the soft chirping of crickets and the distant hoot of an owl. Over the riverbank, you see the silhouette of palm trees against the starry sky, and perhaps the faint glow of a village hearth where a last ember is dying out. The water laps quietly against your boat, a soothing, rhythmic sound like a gentle breath. You are relaxed, floating in this moment between past and present. May the tranquility of that Nile night stay with you as you prepare to sleep. Perhaps you carry a bit of ancient wisdom with you now, that a little self-care is not indulgence, but a way to nourish the soul. That pleasant scents and sights can bring peace to the mind, and that our ancestors found comfort under the same stars that shine above you now. Thank you for coming on this journey with me, for wandering the golden halls and humble homes of ancient Egypt to uncover these secrets. It's been a delight to share these stories by this metaphorical, late-night campfire. Sleep well, and until our next adventure, Imhotep, which means in peace in the ancient language. Thank you for listening, and good night. Pleasant dreams.